Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. David Cooper, and welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Introvert Project. And I am so excited to talk to you today about making incredible breakthroughs in your life. Whatever situation you're finding yourself in today, in about 45 minutes time, we will have completely changed that for you. So I'm so excited to get into that. But before that, how's your week going? How are you loving the episodes with our guests? We are so grateful to every guest who's coming on the show. And if you're interested in being a guest, please reach out. If you've got a great story to tell that might help somebody, then I would love to talk to you on the Unstoppable Introvert Project. And we've got some amazing guests lined up for the next few weeks as well. And like I say, I'm just so grateful for everybody's time, and I know the work we're doing here on the podcast is life-changing, and the messages I'm getting are so appreciated as well. So yes, it is all good in the hood, and we're getting into the year, aren't we? How are your goals going? I am working hard on my own goals. One thing I need to work harder on is definitely diet. So at the moment, yeah, I've still got the beard, the long hair, bags under my eyes, still grinding hard. And the diet is something that I personally always struggle with. So I still train, still get up early, I still grind. But for some reason, I go back to that morbidly obese guy when it comes to eating my feelings and wanting to feel more comfortable, actually, when times are hard and times are challenging, which they are, but in an awesome way. So we've got so many good things going on in the Hooper household at the minute, but we're still like, oh yeah, we'll just have some comfort eating, which is something that my wife and I are both going to be getting a handle on in the next few days. And if you're similar to us, you're about to start your summer shred, then you can do it with us. Let us know, send us a message, and we can do that together. We've got a summer holiday with the family at the end of May, which is a great target. It's about 10 weeks, drop a little bit of weight, feel a bit better about ourselves, but in general, it's all good in the Hooper household. Now this morning, I have been joined by my ladies, by Arwen and by one of my ladies. Luna is over to the side there, and she is just sleeping it out, because we're getting after it early in these podcasts at the moment. Like I said on my last solo episode, we're getting them done nice and early to set us up for an amazing week. So let's get into this today. So making breakthroughs is the topic, and it's really important, because if you're able to make a breakthrough, you are breaking away from whatever was holding you back. You are taking strides towards something that is going to be transformational, life-changing in a lot of ways as well. And it's the difference in a lot of people's quality of life. If you think about people in your lives, why do some who have a lot struggle? Why do people who struggle sometimes thrive? But to be honest, making breakthroughs isn't just about achieving incremental progress. It's about experiencing profound, transformative shifts that propel you towards your goals and dreams and ambitions. And like most things, the first step to making a breakthrough is understanding the power of your own beliefs and mindset. And something Tony Robbins emphasizes a lot is the importance of a growth mindset, where challenges are seen as growth and learning opportunities instead of being hindered by setbacks. Those are the growth mindset. Embrace those setbacks as stepping stones on the path to success and greatness. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. We're going to try and help you guys make some breakthroughs. Now, I've been really fortunate, I guess, in my life. I'm trying to have that growth mindset here, in that I've had quite a lot of setbacks, from being released from an elite football academy, to not getting into any of my university's choices, to being morbidly obese, to being redundant, to being clinically depressed, to losing a business to COVID. I've had a load of setbacks. However, I've been able to break away from those challenging moments to go on to achieve, quite a lot of amazing things. So it's all about how you see those setbacks. A lot of the time, those setbacks are guiding you away from a path that you're not meant to be on. And those new paths that it's guiding you towards are quite often positive. If I hadn't got into my university if I'd got into my university choices, I wouldn't have met my wife, for example. If I hadn't been made redundant, I'd never have discovered my love for entrepreneurship. If I hadn't been morbidly obese, I would have never found ultra running. So you've got to look at these setbacks as opportunities for growth, and that's all about reframing, which we've touched on quite a few times over the past couple of episodes. So take a moment to just think about what that might look like for you personally, because if you can understand what a breakthrough would look like, it gives you something to aim for. What transformation are you looking for? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? Is it to do with your career or your relationships or your overall performance or your finances? Whatever that transformation is, give yourself the chance to achieve it by acknowledging what it is. And remember that roadmap's a lot easier to drive if we know the destination we're kind of aiming for. So start with the end in mind. But something that I've never really struggled with is taking risks. So a lot of people are so afraid to fail that they lose the capacity to take those risks. So let me ask you this. Did you ever have that feeling of hurt, but it inspired you to be better? So did you ever fail at something and then thought, you know what, I'm going to come back, I'm going to be better at this next time? And if you can get your head into that mind space again, then you've got a chance. Because if we can deal with an uncertain tomorrow, you can have a really compelling future. And that's exactly what we want to aim for today. We want to get you into that position where you can have that compelling future. And if you can learn the lessons that we're going to talk about today quickly, you can save yourself 10 years. Now, we want you to have this breakthrough. We want you to have this compelling future. And it all starts today. So sit back, relax, get that pen and paper out, or if you're on the treadmill, bump that speed up. If you're driving, keep an eye on the rev counter and speedo, and let's get after it. Here's a question for you as well. What do you actually want in this life? Are you just trying to survive, or are you trying to thrive? Some people have to thrive, whereas others have to just simply survive. Where do you sit when it comes to that kind of thing? Because a lot of the time, people are just in their safe zones. They are just sitting, surviving every day the same, going to work, doing a really boring job. People are just surviving. If you think about those types of people, they just have that kind of 9-to-5 job, minimum wage. They do enough to get by. They're happy, they're happy with that, but they're just surviving. They're not taking major risks. They're not trying to particularly up-level their lives. They are just surviving. So try and figure out what that looks like to you. And we want to get you into that thriving. And we want you to be taking measurable risks. We want you to be trying to grow. We want you to be breaking away from a life you're unhappy with and actually achieving the life that you are destined to actually achieve. But there is some good news here. It's all about patterns. So something as I'm getting older, not that old. Somebody said I looked 45 the other day on a note, and as a 33-year-old, I took that quite hard. And yeah, I'm getting older and more wise, maybe, I'm not sure. And the thing I'm learning in my wiser years is that life is all about patterns. It's all about doing certain things and getting certain outcomes. And if you can start to control those things and replicate those patterns, then you are starting to do some really cool shit. So if you can get a handle on that, then you're in a good place. Because if you imagine everything in this world, whether it's a Formula One race, a professional football team, a well-functioning business, whatever your interest is, It all needs work, but it's all patterns and systems and workflows, right? Imagine a 24-hour car race. Driving a car in a desert for 24 hours by itself wouldn't work. It needs humans. It needs work on its special tires. It needs a certain amount of gas. It needs to be cleaned regularly. It needs to have certain codes and systems and all the computer stuff, techie stuff. It needs seat belts. And these are all patterns, and these are all systems, and these are all tools that makes that car successful in the 24-hour race. And humans are exactly the same. And sure, we might fail, but failure isn't a failure if it's only a setback. So we need to start to be putting things like patterns and schedules and workflows into your daily life to help you be successful. That's one of the big things I've discovered in the back end of 2023, really. Everything is a system. Everything. If you want to be successful, systemize your life. I think Grant Cardone said that, who went from zero to multi-millionaire, and I think he's close to $1 billion now. And he said his life is just systems, whether it's calendar entries, whether it's processes for every aspect of his business, whatever it is, systems. And there's 3 key skills that I'm going to talk about that will help you achieve that. But before I get into those, if you're struggling to see where you fit within that overview, hopefully what I'm going to say will help. Here's an example. Consider Sarah. She's a corporate executive who felt stuck in her career and unfulfilled in her personal life. Despite her best efforts, she couldn't seem to break free from the cycle of dissatisfaction and mediocrity. But then, Sarah had a breakthrough moment. She realized that her limiting beliefs about her capabilities and worthiness were holding her back from reaching her full potential. With the help of her mindset and her belief system, Sarah began to challenge these limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering ones, which we know all about. As Sarah shifted her mindset and adopted a growth-oriented perspective, she started to see new opportunities emerge. That's the RAS system we spoke about in episode 16. She took bold risks, embraced uncertainty, and refused to let fear hold her back. And before she knew it, Sarah was achieving levels of success and fulfillment she never thought possible. So, how can you start making breakthroughs in your own life? It begins with a willingness to challenge your beliefs and to step outside of your comfort zone. Embracing that failure is a natural part of the learning process and using it as fuel to propel you forward. So, what would be the key skills that would help you do this? Remember, there are 3. And these are all about patterns, remember. So when we start to understand patterns, we can start to make some real changes. So firstly, pattern recognition gives you power. It is predictable. So you can start to see how you act in certain situations. So for me, at a networking event, my pattern is to hide in a corner, not really make eye contact, not engage with people. And that is not particularly helpful if you're trying to build a brand or build a business. And it's something that you can recognize though, and I can start to go, okay, well, if I want to build a brand and a business and develop my networks, I need to step outside my comfort zone and attack these networking events in a different way. So that's the first one, pattern recognition. The second one, pattern utilization. Use the pattern, don't get used. So in all of these situations, you need to be in the driver's seat. You need to be controlled here. So start to think about what patterns might actually help, or the things you're currently doing that might be a positive thing, and then you can start to utilize it. It involves becoming acutely aware of the patterns and habits that have been holding you back in essence. It's about recognizing your beliefs and the behaviors and thought patterns that have been keeping you stuck in the cycle of mediocrity. I think Tony Robbins also says that there is such importance of honest reflection and introspection at this stage, looking inwards. And by shining a light on those areas of your life that need improvement, you can begin to take proactive steps towards change, which is, of course, what we're hoping to see here. Pattern utilization. Great tagline with this one. Use the pattern, don't get used. Once you've recognized patterns that have been holding you back, it's time to leverage this newfound awareness, certainly to your advantage. Utilization involves harnessing the power of the patterns and using them as fuel for your transformations. So instead of viewing those past failures and setbacks as obstacles, you can reframe them as valuable learning experiences that have equipped you with the knowledge and resilience needed to succeed. And that is something that can be so empowering. So make sure that these patterns that you're now recognizing are being used for you, not against you. And that's something that I was certainly able to do when I think back to my own transformation. So one of the things that I recognized fairly quickly is that I'm a creature of habit. That when I was around 27, I had a lot of habits that just weren't particularly good. So I would get up at the same time, I would eat at the same time, I would sleep at the same time, and I was morbidly obese and clinically depressed and redundant, but I had some habits. You know, I would eat at the same time, I'd eat too much, but it was the same time. Then I'd sleep, then I would eat again, then I would sleep again, then I would drink. And what my habits were with that, they were bad. You know, they were bad eating habits, they were bad sleeping habits, they were bad drinking habits, they were bad thought habits, but they were still habits. So something that I recognized early on was that if I can replace these habits with more useful habits, such as swapping out that morning feast for a run, or swapping out that morning nap for reading, or swapping out that evening drinking session for having a meaningful conversation with my wife, I was able to basically swap out these different habits. It wasn't as simple as I'm saying it is right now. Habits take time to form, but what I was aware of is some of my patterns related to habits, you know, and sticking to those timings. And I think that's something that goes back to me being brought up with habits. You know, something that my family did was we had set meal times. So, you know, we'd have breakfast at 7, lunch between 12, half 12, and then dinner fairly early, like between half 5 and half 6. And then, you know, my mum takes that a bit further. She has a cup of coffee at 11ish, half 10, 11, has another cup of coffee and a cake at 3 o'clock. And then we had supper as well at 9 o'clock. And I would have a glass of milk and some chocolate or a biscuit. So those habits were kind of ingrained, and I always loved that, especially supper time. My wife always laughs. Her side of the family think it's funny that I'm a bit of a milk and chocolate addict, and that's a habit that's never changed and will never be changing, because I love that combo, milk and chocolate. So yeah, those habits that my parents ingrained in us, my sister and I, in terms of, you know, you've got to eat regularly, which is a good habit. I was able to foster that throughout my adult life, and now I use those habits for slightly different reasons and purposes. Still eat the same. Just on a side note, I still have lunch at the same time. I still have tea at the same time, and when Laura and I aren't dieting, might have supper at the same time too. So yeah, it's interesting how these things kind of foster, and we are creatures of habit. So if you can learn to use those habits in a really positive way, it can be pretty life-changing. And then the last one, which is pattern creation, is where you see a pattern or you see a gap and you create something to fill that gap. So this pattern's all about stepping into your power as a creator of your own destiny. It's about taking inspired action towards your goals and dreams. Be confident in your ability to shape your reality according to your vision. And something that I believe is that we all have the innate ability to create the life we desire, but it requires courage, it requires commitment, and it requires an unwavering belief in ourselves And this creation involves a few different things. You know, we've got to be setting clear goals for ourselves. They've got to be compelling goals. We've got to take consistent action, focused action towards their attainment. It's about cultivating a mindset of abundance and possibility rather than scarcity and limitation. And by aligning your thoughts and words and actions with your highest vision for yourself, you can manifest miracles for your life and become the architect of your own destiny. You know, I love that little phrase. I don't know if I've just made that up or not, but I love that phrase, become the architect of your own destiny. So when it comes to that pattern creation, it's time to do a little bit of an audit. Just think back to your life at the moment and think, where's the gaps? Where's the opportunities to make better patterns or better habits? You know, I was talking to a friend who's really changing his life around in 2024, and something that we talked about was he didn't have time, or the motivation actually, didn't have the motivation to go to the gym and to start a business. And he's currently a postman, and this guy is a good friend of mine, and we were having a really good chat, and he wanted to start going to the gym again. So basically the problem was, the pattern at the moment was that he'd go to work, do his rounds, go back home to get his gym stuff, get in the house, start to play on the PlayStation or the Xbox, start to eat some food, and you know, after a couple hours of that, you feel quite shit about yourself, and you're like, oh, I wish I'd gone to the gym, I wish I'd progressed my business, but I haven't. And that initial moment of comfort, which is, I want to just stay in the house and I want to play on my game, turns into a bigger thing a few hours later of, I wish I'd gone to the library and worked on my business. I wish I'd gone to the gym and worked on my fitness. And that was starting to become a problem. And it was also starting to become a negative habit or a negative pattern. So what we decided to do was look for the gaps, look for the opportunities, look for the opportunity to create this new pattern. So all we did, a slight change, was two things. Pick up your gym kit as you leave the house, put it in the van, pick up your laptop as you leave the house, put it in the van, and then go to work. So then you go to work. And then the main change was, instead of driving directly home, drive via the gym. Now, just in his situation, the library is actually attached to the gym because it's a council building. And therefore, what this pattern allowed him to do was, after finishing work, he'd go straight to the gym, crush a workout for 45 minutes to an hour, and then take his laptop into the library and work on his business for an hour or two. And then he could go home and play on his game and almost earn that reward of sitting in front of the TV playing on his Xbox. However, what you find is, you're in the gym and you're buzzing, you've smashed it out, you might do an extra half an hour in there. And then you'd be so pumped off a 90-minute workout, you go to the library and you end up doing 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And that becomes your pleasure. Then you get home and you think, can I even be bothered to play on my PlayStation? Nah, I'll just go to bed and then start again tomorrow. So that tiny, tiny change of take your gym and your laptop to work with you and then drive home via the gym and library can transform somebody's life. And that is a tiny, tiny change when it comes to that guy's life. He's gone from being somebody who was sitting for hours at a time in front of the PlayStation to now being somebody who's got a full-time job, smashes the gym daily for at least an hour, goes and works on his business outside of his working hours for a couple of hours a day, and is now somebody who is buzzing with the potential he has in 2024. And you can do exactly the same thing as well. So just think about what that might look like for you. Remember, we've got those 3 patterns of major transformation. We've got recognition, utilization, and creation, and they provide a powerful framework for achieving breakthroughs and real success. And by recognizing the patterns that have been holding you back, have been tripping you up, and utilizing them for transformation and replacing them with better habits, better patterns, better processes, better schedules, better workflows, whatever you want to call it, and you kind of embrace this role as a creator of these patterns, you can unleash your full potential and create the life of your dreams and become that unstoppable introvert I know you want to become. Oh, we've got Luna's just joined us if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, I hope she doesn't decide to contribute. It is early in the morning, so I think she's just going to nap it out while we work through the rest of today's episode. But I suppose something that I do want to touch on, now you have a bit of a framework, I'm kind of doing this episode in a bit of a reverse order, is what is a breakthrough? What does that actually mean? And a breakthrough is a moment in time when everything changes. And it's almost like the impossible becomes possible. I know I'm starting to sound a bit dramatic here, but that is really true. And then you act on it. And you might have already had some of those moments where you kind of think to yourself, is this really happening? I can't believe I'm in this situation. It's a bit like my wife working towards this marathon. She's like, is the marathon really this weekend? Like, I can't believe that the marathon's this Saturday. I can't believe I've done 11 weeks of training. I can't believe I've run hundreds of miles. I can't believe, and I'm like, believe it. You've created this new change for yourself. Your family views you differently. People at work view you differently. You view yourself differently. You now have this new persona of I'm a runner now, which is pretty cool. A new level of confidence it'll give you. New levels of mental toughness. So it's like that situation where you find yourself and you think, am I really doing this? That is when the breakthrough starts to happen. But the thing that stops us a lot of the time is uncertainty. You hear it all the time. Why didn't you start that business? I was just a bit too worried I wouldn't make it. Why didn't you apply for that job? I didn't think I'd get an interview. Then you have to bring yourself back to those moments where you actually did change something. So think about an area that you struggle with, but you couldn't change. But then you suddenly did. So for me, that was weight loss, definitely. So I was 80 pounds overweight. I was morbidly obese, officially classed as morbidly obese. My heart was wrapped in fat and my health was a real worry for a decent few months. But then the thing that changed was my tolerance. I stopped tolerating it. And I should lose weight became I must lose weight. And that is the biggest lesson that I want you to take away from today. And it's one Tony Robbins says all the time. It's his phrase. I'm not trying to claim it. I just love it. It's when your goals become I musts that things will start to change. You tolerate and say things like, I should do this. I should spend more time with my kids. I should lose weight. I should start my business. I should make more money. I should have better relationships. But you're not that uncomfortable. You can tolerate the uncomfortable. It's when you get into a situation where you cannot tolerate it anymore that you start to make changes. It's like when I was clinically depressed a few months after I was classified as morbidly obese, and I got into a situation where I couldn't tolerate being so overweight anymore. I couldn't tolerate feeling so down about myself. I couldn't tolerate drinking every night anymore. And that is when I decided I must change this. For myself, for my wife, for my family, I needed to change this. So just think about your life at the moment. Ask yourself a few of these questions. Firstly, what was your breakthrough? Have you had one yet? I am certain if you are over the age of 25, listen to this, you have had a breakthrough at some point. Otherwise, your life has been pretty plain sailing and I'm very jealous. What was the situation you struggled with for a long time, but then finally broke it? Maybe you used to smoke. Maybe you smoked a lot. Or maybe you had a bad relationship and it truly messed you up. Maybe your relationship with your parents wasn't particularly good. Maybe you were broke, but you started to earn a bit of money. Then start to think about the moment that it changed. So what actually happened during that moment? What triggered it? What made you go from, you know what, my relationship with this person needs to change, it must. I'm being emotionally abused. I'm being upset all of the time. I need to get out of this relationship, or we need to work together to develop it. Or maybe it was the finance thing. Maybe you were broke, couldn't afford food, couldn't afford to pay your rent. You know, you knew you had to start a side hustle, which eventually started to make you some good money. What triggered it? You know, was there a moment? What changed you tolerating your situation to changing it? And then start to think about what made it possible for that change to last. So if you were broke, how are you never going to be broke again? If you were in a relationship where you were fighting all the time and not loving each other to the best of your abilities, what makes you now be in a great relationship with that person and you're working hard for each other? Is it new belief? Is it a strategy? Is it new insights into your relationships or whatever you're doing? Try and nail down those 3 points, and that is then the catalyst for change. It's a catalyst for a breakthrough as well. But just to give you a bit of a personal insight into my own processes to actually get to this point, when I was morbidly obese, clinically depressed, redundant, when I've lost my business to COVID, when I was released as an elite football player at an academy, when I've had challenging moments in my life, the thing that I always try and bring myself back to is, can I make my worst day my best day? Which is really hard to do, by the way. So let's say you're having a terrible day. You can give yourself the challenge of saying, right, I want to make this day my best day. This moment, my rock bottom moment, is the catalyst for that change. I'm never going to be as down as I am today, but I'm not out. And when I look back in 5 years' time and I've achieved something incredible, this is the moment that I'm going to think about. One moment I've talked about before is a really challenging moment during my master's degree. So I was 23-ish, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was at the library in Sunderland, because that's where I went to uni, and there was nobody else on campus, because when you do a master's degree, it sometimes runs over like the holiday times for other graduate programs, and I was the only one on the campus, and I was doing this master's degree, 2 o'clock in the morning, pitch black outside, silent in where I was, and I just cried because it was too hard. It was a new subject. I'd changed from sport coaching to a master's in business management, and it was too hard, and I just wept. But then I thought that, you know what, I need to get this qualification, I need to get my master's degree, I need to get on with my life. And now I look back at that moment and I realize that I was starting to build up really good habits. And that day actually is one of my most fond memories, because I look back and think, bloody hell, yeah, you were getting after it back then, 23-year-old David. As challenging as it was, you were still getting after it. So can you change that worst day into your best day? And we're almost changing that, like that grief and tragedy, to gratitude almost. I'm thankful for being put in that situation because it enabled me to then thrive. And then the last part is, can you stop acting like a victim? And I say this to myself all of the time, so I'm definitely just speaking to myself here, but you might be able to take something from it too, is when you're put in a challenging situation, stop acting like a victim. You know, I've had these moments recently where I wanted to start my podcast or want to start a business, and I'm like, oh, I just, you know, I'm not in the right place to do that. And that's the mindset I had when I was trying to lose this weight. You know, my victim mindset was that I was so upset that I got made redundant in 2017 from a job I really wanted. And I just sat in that victim mindset for the best part of 6 or 7 months. And I ate myself to near death. I was classified as morbidly obese, was on medication for clinical depression. And I just held myself in this victim mindset. But then, once I realized that these things had happened for me, not to me, and that these things were now an opportunity for me to go and create my new business, to get in the best shape of my life, to develop a new incredible levels of mental toughness, that I started to change and started to transform. And I changed that mindset from a victim mentality to a victor mentality. Victim mentality to a victor mentality. So you have the power within you to do that as well. So I really hope this has helped today. And if you're in that much pain, you will not be able to tolerate it anymore, and you will have to make a change. And I'm so excited for you to do that today. I don't want you to be in pain. I want you to be able to change and have that breakthrough and go and achieve your greatness. And it's all about having that self-belief, understanding that pattern recognition, and being able to look at yourself not as a victim, but as a victor, and that you are having these things done for you, not to you. And then you can create that incredible long-lasting change and make those breakthroughs. So thanks so much for watching. I really, really appreciate all the support for the Unstoppable Introvert Project. Please like and subscribe on Spotify. You can also find us on YouTube at Dr. David Hooper. Please find me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn as well at Dr. David Hooper. And stay tuned, we've got some incredible guests coming on. We are pumping these out 2 episodes a week. We're closing in on that 100 goal, and we're motoring towards the 25 episode anniversary too, which is really, really exciting. So remember, being an introvert isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that is going to make you unstoppable and achieve your greatness. So until next time, stay unstoppable.